Sunday we begin again. We start our Advent preparations, our waiting for the coming of the Lord. If you've been through the cycle a few times, you'll already know that we begin this awaiting, looking towards the second coming, and gradually slide into the prophecies of his coming and the virgin birth and our Christmas celebration. But I noticed something this year. So our first Sunday in Advent gospel is always taken from the apocalyptic teachings of Jesus at the end of his public ministry. But I noticed that this teaching takes place before his crucifixion and resurrection. And I don't think it's just because that's when he was teaching. He could have explained these things after his death and resurrection if they were about primarily some separate future coming. But he teaches these apocalyptic teachings before his death and resurrection because this is the beginning of that end time, because this is the beginning of his coming in glory, because this is the beginning of his kingdom. And we live already in those times, and as we await them, it's a different kind of waiting. So sometimes we wait for something that might happen, right? So a child waits for Christmas hoping that Santa will bring many beautiful presents, preferably all of the things on the list. But it's a waiting for something that could happen in the future that doesn't have much to do with me. A mother waits for the birth of her child in a very different way. She's like intimately involved in the entire process of something that's already happening, that is unfolding and becoming something more, but not different, just more, right? And her choices along the way have a direct and immediate impact on what is unfolding and on the expected birth of her child. For us to consider maybe in our lives other examples, but then the reality of this kingdom that is already unfolding, and what is still happening, what is still expected, very much depends directly on me. The unfolding of God's kingdom in my heart, God's coming in glory, the expectation of our advent, of the Lord's coming, isn't just something that I have to wait for. It's something that God has already set in motion, and I have to prepare for. Prepare myself for, but also prepare, create, establish, allow, develop. That God has entrusted to me the unfolding of his kingdom. He's entrusted to you the unfolding of his kingdom, and that our Advent preparation, expectation, hope, waiting is not the waiting of a child hoping that there will be gifts to unwrap under the tree. It is the waiting of a mother, maybe like Mary or like you, expecting her child, knowing that her every choice and action will have a direct effect on what she hopes for, on what she expects, on what she prepares for, and what she desires and awaits. May our Advent preparation help us to see the unfolding of God's kingdom in our hearts, in our parish, in our world, but to see that unfolding not as something happening from the outside, but as it is, an expectation, an awaiting that has been entrusted to us, that's already happening, and that relies upon us for the outcomes that are still